The human starship Odyssey moved silently through the edge of a forgotten sector. Its captain, Ethan Cole, stood at the main viewport, staring at the stars that glittered like scattered diamonds. He was young for a mission leader, only 30, but he carried himself with calm strength. Earth had chosen him for a dangerous task: make first contact with the mysterious empire called the Zarathi. The Zarathi were one of the galaxy's most feared powers. Their ships were vast, their armies endless, and their rule harsh. Other civilizations had spoken of them only in whispers. But humanity was new among the stars. Instead of bowing to fear, Earth sent Ethan forward, hoping for diplomacy. The ship drifted into Zarathi territory. For a few quiet hours, nothing happened. The crew whispered nervously, wondering if the Empire even noticed them. Then, without warning, the darkness of space was filled with light. Dozens of alien warships appeared, surrounding Odyssey like wolves around a lone traveler. "They've locked weapons," whispered the navigator. His hands shook as he looked at his screen. Ethan did not flinch. "Hold position. Do not raise our shields. We came in peace. Let's show them that." The alien ships drew closer, massive shadows of metal and strange energy. A deep voice thundered through the ship's speakers, translated by the computer. "Human vessel, you are trespassing in Zarathi space. Power down and prepare for boarding." The crew looked to Ethan. He nodded slowly. "Do as they say. No resistance." Moments later, strange shimmering lights filled the bridge. Alien soldiers appeared, tall and armored, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. They moved with sharp precision, surrounding Ethan and his officers. Their leader pointed a spear-like weapon at Ethan. "You will come with us," the alien growled. Ethan raised his hands calmly. "Very well. I am Captain Ethan Cole of Earth. Take me to your leaders." The aliens bound his hands with bands of energy, then vanished with him in a beam of light. The human crew shouted in protest, but Ethan's last words before he disappeared were steady. "Stay calm. This is the only way." Ethan awoke inside a vast hall of crystal and metal. The ceiling soared high above him, glowing with soft blue light. Around him stood alien guards, silent and unblinking. At the far end of the hall was a throne of dark stone carved into sharp edges, and seated upon it was someone he did not expect. A young woman, alien yet graceful, stared at him with curious eyes. Her skin was pale silver and her long hair shimmered like starlight. A crown rested lightly upon her head. She was regal but also strangely fragile. This was no soldier, no warlord, this was a princess. The guards forced Ethan to his knees. But the woman raised her hand and they obeyed instantly, stepping back. "You are human," she said. Her voice was soft but carried power. So the stories were true. A death-world race that dares the stars. Ethan met her gaze. "And you are Princess of the Zarathi?" She tilted her head, surprised at his calmness. "I am Soraya, heir to the throne, and you are mine to question." The hall echoed with whispers. Alien nobles stood in balconies above, watching closely. To them, this was entertainment. But Soraya did not mock. She leaned forward, eyes bright. "Tell me, human, what is marriage?" Ethan blinked. Of all questions, he had not expected this. "Marriage?" he repeated. "Yes," she said firmly. "Your kind is said to bond not for power, not for empire, but for choice." "A vow? Explain it to me." The nobles gasped in shock. To them, marriage was nothing but politics, alliances, and contracts. But the princess's eyes were filled with something else, curiosity, even hunger for truth. Ethan straightened. "Marriage for humans is simple yet powerful. Two people choose each other. They promise to stay together, to protect each other no matter the storms of life. It is not forced. It is not demanded. It is chosen," Soraya whispered the word. "Chosen." The hall trembled with murmurs. Some nobles laughed, others hissed in disapproval. One shouted, "Princess, why waste time on this prisoner?" But Soraya's gaze never left Ethan. "Silence," she commanded. Then to him, "Your people are strange. Your strength is not in war, yet you endure. Your bonds are not of chains, yet they hold stronger than iron. I wish to know everything." Ethan frowned. "Why? Why does this matter to you?" For the first time, her proud mask slipped. She looked almost vulnerable. "Because I have never been allowed to choose. My life is a path carved by others. Every promise, every bond, every alliance has been written for me. But if what you say is true, humans choose for themselves." Her voice trembled. "Teach me how." Ethan stared at her. Around them, the alien court was stunned into silence. This was no interrogation. This was something else entirely. The guard shifted uneasily, unsure if they should stop her. But Soraya raised her chin with defiance. I am Princess of the Zarathi. I will not be silenced. She leaned closer, her silver eyes shining like moons. Tell me, human, how does one marry in your way? What must I do? Ethan's heart pounded. He had faced warships, soldiers, and alien threats, but nothing had prepared him for this. The fate of his mission, and perhaps more, rested in how he answered. For now he said only one thing, steady and clear. It begins with choice. The nobles erupted in outrage. The idea of choice in marriage was an insult to their traditions. Some shouted for Ethan's execution. Others demanded the princess's removal. But Soraya rose from her throne, standing tall, her voice cutting through the chaos. I choose to learn from this human, she declared, and none of you will deny me. The hall fell into stunned silence. Even the guards lowered their weapons, unsure how to act. Only one figure seemed calm, a shadowed presence at the far side of the throne room. The queen herself, mother of Soraya, watching with unreadable eyes. Ethan felt the weight of her gaze. The queen said nothing, but her silence was more dangerous than any words. She would be the true judge of his fate. For now, though, Ethan stood free, his hands no longer bound, and the princess, this curious, defiant alien, stepped down from her throne to stand before him. You will tell me everything, she said softly, and in return I will protect you from those who wish you dead. Ethan nodded slowly. He had not expected this mission to end in chains nor in death. But he had never imagined this either. The alien princess wanted to know how to marry a human, and even in silence the queen was watching. The palace halls were vast and quiet, yet full of whispers. Every step Ethan took echoed through corridors carved from dark crystal and polished metal. Alien guards watched him silently, their glowing eyes following him like shadows that never slept. Yet he felt no real fear. The first part of his ordeal, meeting the princess, was over. Now he faced something entirely different. Learning the mind of an alien princess who wanted to understand humans. Princess Soraya moved beside him, her silver hair flowing like liquid starlight. Her eyes, bright with curiosity, studied him as though he were a living book. The nobles in the galleries above whispered endlessly, unsure what to make of this unusual pairing. To them, a human was weak, fragile, and fleeting. And yet the princess seemed captivated. You understand their customs? Soraya said softly, her voice almost musical. But tell me truly, human, how do your people bond? How do they love? Ethan paused, measuring his words. Humans do not bond for power, he said carefully. We do not marry to gain allies or territory. We marry because we choose each other. We share a promise, loyalty, and trust. Soraya's eyes widened. A promise. Not forced by family, not written in law, but chosen freely? Yes, Ethan replied. Choice is the heart of it. Two people look at each other and decide they want to share their lives. They accept each other's flaws and strengths. They protect each other even when it is difficult. That is love, and that is marriage. She stepped closer, tilting her head. And you, human? Do you have a partner? Ethan hesitated. He was trained to focus on missions, not personal matters. Yet the question felt different when it came from her. Not yet, he said finally. My work has kept me busy, but I know the time will come. Soraya's lips curved slightly. And yet you speak as if you understand it fully. Perhaps humans feel more deeply than Zarathi warriors ever could. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of wonder and amusement. For the next hours, Ethan was led through the palace's grand library. The room stretched endlessly, shelves of alien scrolls and holograms glowing with knowledge centuries old. Soraya perched on a high chair while Ethan sat on the polished floor. She asked question after question: how humans meet, how they choose a partner, what symbols mark commitment, and how they express love without obligation or fear. Ethan answered simply, describing Earth customs, exchanging rings, giving vows, living together and building trust through shared struggle. He spoke of loyalty, honesty, and companionship. Soraya listened intently, eyes wide, absorbing every word. Your people are strange, she said finally, leaning forward. You fight wars, yet you choose peace in your hearts. You face death, yet you vow to protect others. Tell me, why is your kind so different? Ethan looked at her steadily. Because humans know we are small in the universe, he said. We do not claim to be gods or rulers of the stars. We know our limits, but we also know our strength comes from unity, from choice, and from courage. Soraya leaned back, silent for a moment. Then she whispered almost to herself, I have never had such freedom. Never been allowed to feel this way. Her voice carried a mix of longing and sadness. Every alliance, every promise in... The Zarathi palace hummed with quiet tension. The halls, vast and gleaming, were filled with whispers that echoed like distant storms. Ethan Cole had grown accustomed to the alien architecture, the strange energy that flowed through every corridor, and the silent, glowing eyes of the guards who followed him. But today there was a new presence in the palace, one that made the air almost electric with power. The alien queen had arrived. Soraya's mother, the ruler of the Zarathi Empire, was known across the stars for her cunning, her wisdom, and her ruthlessness. Her presence alone could silence the entire court, and now she had chosen to observe her daughter's unusual fascination with a human firsthand. Ethan felt the weight of her gaze before he even saw her. The queen's figure appeared at the end of the hall, draped in flowing robes that shimmered like black water. Her silver eyes scanned him, calculating and sharp, as though measuring his worth against the weight of the entire galaxy. Human, the queen said, her voice low but resonant. You have entered my court and spoken freely to my daughter. You have claimed knowledge of what my people do not teach. Tell me, why should I not end your life for daring to do so? Ethan bowed slightly, maintaining calm. Your Majesty, I speak only truth. I do not claim power here. I speak of humans, their way of love, their choice, and their loyalty. My words do not threaten your empire. They only explain who we are. The queen's lips curved faintly, but not in warmth. You are brave, perhaps too brave for your own good. Tell me then, human, what is it you have done to my daughter that she now defies the customs of the Zarathi? Ethan looked at Soraya, who stood tall beside him, her silver hair flowing around her shoulders. She did not bow, she did not tremble. She met her mother's gaze with unwavering courage. I have told her the truth about human choice and love, Ethan said calmly. She is curious. She wishes to learn. Nothing more. The queen studied him carefully, her eyes narrowing. She had expected fear, submission, perhaps even lies. But here was a human who stood straight and spoke honestly, without flattery, without deceit. A small part of her respected that. And you, human, she continued, turning her attention fully to him. Would you take my daughter as your own, even knowing the consequences? The disapproval of the court? The possible unrest in the empire? Ethan's chest tightened, but he did not falter. He had prepared for this question, though not in words. If I chose her, he said slowly, I would take responsibility for her life, her safety, and her future. Humans do not act lightly in love, and I would not act lightly in choosing her. Soraya's eyes glowed softly. She had heard no human speak like this before. In a court where decisions were made with fear and strategy, Ethan's words were revolutionary. They carried courage, honesty, and something far rarer, heart. The queen leaned forward slightly, her hands resting on the arms of her throne. And yet, human, you are fragile. Your species has survived wars and death worlds, yes, but you are small, delicate, and your lifespan is short. How can you possibly protect my daughter? Ethan met her gaze. Strength is not measured by size or age, he said firmly. Humans survive because we adapt. We fight because we must, and we protect because we choose to. That is our strength, not in power alone, but in courage, in loyalty, and in our willingness to face impossible odds. The queen was silent for a moment. Her eyes studied him, sharp and unyielding. No words could disguise the fact that she was impressed, though she would never admit it openly. Here was a human who did not cower, who did not lie, and who spoke with a conviction she could not ignore. You are unusual, she said finally. Your species is untested in my eyes. Yet perhaps there is merit in what you say. You claim to love with choice, loyalty, and courage. But will you truly understand what it means to live in the shadow of my empire? To stand against tradition and survive the court's scrutiny? Ethan nodded. I understand, Your Majesty. Humans face challenges every day. We choose our path even when it is dangerous. If I am to teach your daughter, if I am to love her, I accept the risks. That is the way of humans. The queen leaned back, her gaze shifting to her daughter. Soraya's expression was radiant with determination. For the first time, the queen saw her daughter not as a child to be protected or controlled, but as a being capable of making her own choices. The thought unsettled her yet also intrigued her. "You have shown bravery," the queen said finally, "and perhaps wisdom beyond your years. Very well, I will watch this human experiment closely, but be warned. Any failure, any misstep, and the consequences will be dire. Do you understand?" Ethan bowed. "I understand, Your Majesty. I do not seek your approval. I only wish to teach her the truth of humans as she wishes to know it." Soraya stepped forward, her silver hair catching the light. "Mother, do not mistake curiosity for weakness," she said. "I wish to learn, and I choose to learn from him." "I will not be denied." The queen's eyes narrowed. The princess's boldness was dangerous. It threatened centuries of tradition, authority, and expectation. Yet she did not intervene. Instead, she studied them both, silently assessing the human sincerity and her daughter's determination. Ethan realized that the queen's presence, while intimidating, also protected him. Her decision to observe rather than punish allowed him to continue teaching. He took a deep breath, ready for whatever questions Soraya might ask next. The princess's voice was soft but insistent. "Tell me again, human, about your choices, about love, about loyalty, step by step. I wish to understand it all." Ethan smiled faintly. "Very well, princess. We begin again. You must understand that humans value freedom above all. The first step in love is choice. You cannot force it, demand it, or expect it to follow orders. Both people must desire each other willingly." Soraya repeated the words carefully, savoring their meaning. Choice, willingly. Her eyes glimmered with wonder. "And the next step?" "The next step," Ethan continued, "is trust. Humans trust those they love. They share their fears, their thoughts, their lives. Trust is earned, not given. Without it, love cannot survive." Soraya nodded slowly. "Trust. Yes, I understand." Her voice trembled slightly, but her eyes were steady. "And finally?" "The final step is commitment," Ethan said. "Once two people choose each other and trust each other, they promise to protect one another, to stand together through hardship, and to honor that choice every day. That is the essence of human marriage." The princess's lips curved into a small, determined smile. "Then I will learn. I will follow each step no matter the danger. I will know your way." The queen watched in silence, her expression unreadable. The nobles whispered and shifted, unsure how to react. Some were angry, some confused. None dared to challenge the queen's presence, and none dared to speak while she observed. Ethan felt a strange sense of calm. He had faced alien warships, hostile soldiers, and deadly politics. But this, teaching the princess, speaking openly before the queen, was perhaps the greatest challenge of all. Yet he was ready. He had learned long ago that humans thrive in impossible situations. Courage, honesty, and choice were the weapons that no empire could take from them. Soraya leaned closer, her silver eyes bright. "Tomorrow you will teach me more, human. Step by step. I want to know everything about your ways and about love." Ethan nodded. "I will teach you. But you must be ready. Human ways are not easy, and there will be trials." Soraya smiled faintly. "Then let the trials come. I will not turn back, not now, not ever." The queen remained silent, observing the bond growing between the human and her daughter. A new force had entered her court, a force she could neither control nor ignore. And though she did not speak, the wheels of the Zarathi Empire had already begun to turn in response to this unprecedented alliance. Ethan and Soraya, two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, had taken their first steps on a journey that would challenge tradition, defy expectation, and perhaps change the destiny of the empire itself. And in the silent glow of the palace, they both knew that the queen was watching, and that the future was uncertain, but full of promise. The morning sun, alien, pale, and golden, filtered through the crystalline windows of the Zarathi palace. The halls were already alive with movement. Guards marched in precise patterns. Nobles whispered from the balconies, and servants carried trays of shimmering food. But the true tension of the day lay in the great hall, where Ethan Cole, human from Earth, would face his first real trial. The nobles had grown uneasy. A princess fascinated by a human was dangerous. To them, humans were fragile, short-lived creatures unworthy of attention. Some whispered of rebellion, others of assassination. Rumors flew like sparks across the court. The human would fail, the princess would be humiliated, and order would be restored. Ethan, however, walked calmly through the hall, flanked by Soraya. She had insisted on accompanying him, her silver hair flowing as she moved with poise and determination. "You must be brave," she whispered to him. "The court will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "I have faced death before. This will be different, but we will face it together." The first trial was one of intelligence. The nobles presented a series of complex puzzles and ancient Zarathi riddles. Some were physical, requiring precision and dexterity. Others were abstract, testing logic and understanding of the Empire's history. Failure meant public humiliation and in the woe. The Zarathi palace was unusually quiet that morning. Word had spread across the court. The human had passed every trial, survived every challenge, and yet he still stood beside the princess. Some nobles whispered angrily. Others grudgingly admired his courage. But all eyes, even those not present, were on the throne room today, for the queen herself had chosen to speak. Ethan stood before the grand throne, his posture calm, though he felt the tension like a weight pressing against his chest. Beside him, Princess Soraya's silver eyes shone brightly, determined and unyielding. She had spent weeks learning from him, asking questions and discovering the human ways of love, choice, and loyalty. Her curiosity had turned into something deeper, a bond that neither tradition nor fear could sever. The alien queen, draped in flowing robes that shimmered with dark energy, rose from her throne. Her gaze swept over the court, then settled fully on Ethan. "Human," she said, her voice deep and commanding. "You have survived the trials of my court, shown courage beyond your species, and gained my daughter's trust. Yet there is one question I must ask you, one that could change everything." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "Would you take my daughter as your wife, knowing the danger, the scrutiny, and the expectations you would carry?" Ethan took a slow breath. His heart beat faster, but he did not falter. "Your Majesty," he began, "I do not take this lightly. Love is not simple. It comes with responsibility, sacrifice, and risk. If I choose your daughter, I accept all of it. I accept the scrutiny, the danger, and the weight of her life in my hands. I accept because I choose her willingly, not out of fear or obligation." The queen's silver eyes narrowed. She had expected hesitation, uncertainty, perhaps even arrogance, but Ethan's words carried honesty, courage, and a clarity she had not anticipated. The court shifted in whispers. Some nobles leaned forward in disbelief, others muttered angrily. Soraya stepped closer to Ethan. "Mother," she said softly but firmly, "he speaks the truth. Humans choose with their hearts, not because of power or politics. And I choose him." The queen's lips pressed together. She had spent years guiding, controlling, and protecting her daughter. She had expected obedience, not rebellion. And yet she saw something extraordinary. Soraya was not being manipulated, and Ethan was not deceiving. Both were sincere, bound not by fear or duty, but by choice. "You speak boldly, human," the queen said finally. "You claim to understand love and loyalty. But can you truly comprehend the consequences? Our empire is vast, our traditions rigid. To bind yourself to a princess of the Zarathi is to accept enemies, whispers, and doubt at every step. Can you withstand it?" Ethan met her gaze steadily. "I can. Humans survive the impossible every day. We face danger, death, and uncertainty, and yet we endure. My choice is deliberate. My loyalty is unwavering, and my courage will not falter because of fear or expectation. I will stand by your daughter, your Majesty, in every challenge, just as I will honor the choice she has made." The court was silent. Even the nobles who had mocked him moments before found themselves caught in the weight of his words. The alien queen leaned back slightly, contemplating the human before her. This fragile creature had proven himself in trials of mind, body, and heart. But this choice, this willingness to accept risk for love, was something even the most powerful Zarathi rarely displayed. Soraya's hand brushed against Ethan's. "Mother," she said again, her voice firmer this time, "I will not be denied. I choose him and he chooses me. Do you see now that this is not a whim? It is a choice of the heart." The queen's eyes softened imperceptibly. She had feared this day, feared the court's reaction, feared that a human could disrupt centuries of tradition. But here, standing before her, was undeniable truth. Love had entered her court not as weakness but as strength. "You have passed the trials," the queen said at last. "Not by chance, not by accident, but by your own merit. You have demonstrated courage, wisdom, and loyalty. And your bond with my daughter is genuine." She paused, letting her words sink in. But there is one final test before my judgment is made. You will be given freedom to leave. Should you choose to stay, you accept all that comes with your choice, including the possibility of enmity, challenge, and danger. Do you accept this fully? Ethan straightened. His heart raced, but his voice was steady. I accept. I came here to teach, to share, and to honor the truth of my people. I choose to stay. Not because it is easy, not because it is safe, but because it is right. The queen regarded him silently, weighing his answer. Then she turned to her daughter. Soraya, are you certain? Your path will be fraught with challenges. Your bond will be questioned, and the court may resist. Do you understand what it means to follow your heart against all expectation? Soraya held her head high. I understand. And I will not turn back, not now. Not ever. The queen's eyes softened, a rare moment of approval. She had seen many humans, many aliens, many rulers. None had displayed the combination of bravery, wisdom, and loyalty that this human possessed. And none had inspired her daughter's determination like Ethan had. Then it is done, she said finally. Let the court bear witness. My daughter has chosen her path, and the human standing before her has accepted it fully. From this day forward, their bond is recognized by the throne. Gasps echoed across the hall. Some nobles were outraged. Others were silent in disbelief, but none dared challenge the queen's final decree. The human had survived trials of mind, body, and heart. The princess had made her choice, and the queen had sanctioned it. Soraya stepped forward and took Ethan's hand. Now you must teach me the final step, she said softly, her eyes bright. The human way of commitment, the way to bind our lives together fully. I want to understand everything, Ethan smiled. Then we begin, he said, with trust, loyalty, and a promise that we honor every day, no matter the challenge. That is the human way. The court watched as the princess and the human stood together hand in hand. A new chapter had begun. The nobles, who had doubted and whispered, could only observe as two beings from different worlds prepared to forge a bond that defied tradition. The queen remained silent, her eyes thoughtful. She had feared this day, and yet she could not deny what she had witnessed. The human had shown that choice, courage, and loyalty were more powerful than fear or expectation, and her daughter had embraced it fully, fearlessly. Soraya looked at Ethan, her silver eyes reflecting determination and hope. Together, she said softly, step by step we will face everything. I will learn your ways and you will teach me. No matter what the court says, no matter what challenges await, we will not falter. Ethan nodded. Together, he agreed. Whatever comes, we face it as one. Human and Zirathi, side by side. The sun outside the palace windows dipped low, casting long shadows across the hall. The whispers of nobles filled the room, but they were powerless against the bond forming before them. Two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy had chosen each other. Their journey was only beginning, but the foundation had been set: trust, courage, and choice. And even the alien queen, who had watched in silence, could not hide a faint trace of approval. In her heart, she recognized something profound. This union was not weakness, but strength. Perhaps the human way of love was indeed a force the galaxy had underestimated. Soraya squeezed Ethan's hand. Tomorrow we begin the final lessons, she whispered. The court may resist, the nobles may doubt, but I will not turn back. Not now, not ever, Ethan smiled. Then we continue. Step by step together, we will face everything, and whatever comes next, we will not falter. The palace seemed to settle into quiet once more, but a new energy filled the air. The court, the queen, and even the distant stars had borne witness to a choice made freely, courageously, and with heart. A human and an alien princess had begun their journey, not just to understand each other, but to show the galaxy the power of choice, loyalty, and love. And so, as twilight bathed the palace in gold, Ethan and Soraya stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever trials the galaxy would place before them next. Together, they had survived the court's judgment. Together, they would shape their future, and together, they would prove that true strength lies not in fear or duty, but in the courage to follow the heart. The Zirathi Palace was alive with an energy it had never known. Today was no ordinary day. Today, Princess Soraya and Ethan Cole, human from Earth, would take the first steps in a bond that defied tradition, united two worlds, and challenged the very rules of the Empire. The court had gathered, the queen had given her approval, and the alien nobles, some still skeptical, were compelled to witness what would be written into history. Soraya's silver hair shimmered under the palace lights, flowing like liquid starlight down her shoulders. She wore ceremonial robes, simple yet elegant, chosen by her own hands. Today she would not be the obedient princess. She would be the chooser. Beside her, Ethan stood tall and calm, dressed in ceremonial attire of his own design, simple but dignified, reflecting humanity's way, honesty, strength, and humility. The court was silent as the queen descended to the center of the hall. Her presence demanded attention. She did not speak immediately, but studied Ethan with her piercing silver eyes. Then slowly she raised her hand. "Today," she said, her voice echoing like a ripple through the vast chamber, "we witness a choice, and